All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Look at gold. So gold recently dropped right around 6 a.m. I'm getting reports that this is from the CBRT reportedly discussing gold for FX swaps, which means they're potentially selling some of their physical gold for currencies, probably US dollar or maybe the euro is what this likely is. But yeah, it means Turkey is essentially considering swapping some of its gold reserves for foreign currency. Holds one of the largest central bank gold reserves in the world, which is 580 plus tons. So even if they're just discussing converting gold to FX, that signals selling pressure. They need dollars and worries that other banks might do the same. So that is why gold made this dip. It kind of popped right back higher here on gold. But again, this is coming after a few days of volatility here. Honestly, markets are kind of choppy outside of gold here. The NASDAQ is pretty flat on the day. Although it is starting to break down underneath this range. But we have this range right here, right above the volume weighted average price on the NQ. We're at about 24.3s right now, but the NASDAQ hasn't really moved since about 5:30 market time, I'll say. And so we'll see what happens here, but the NASDAQ's slow today. Today, one of the big stories is PMI data. Today we have flash, manufacturing, and service PMI. The reason this is relevant is because this is the first economic data we're getting for March, really. So this is the first time we're looking at data from March. It's going to be relevant because it's going to give us the first look at what data is during this conflict. What data is going to be during this conflict. It's going to be the first look at that. And yeah, that's the big story today. This is at 9:45. Generally speaking, flash PMI data is not really market moving, but I think this one's a little bit different just because of the dynamics of everything going on right now. The manufacturing and services PMI is going to be relevant. Now, we got news earlier that crude oil exports from Saudi Arabia's Yanbu port rise to almost 4 million barrels per day in the latest week from 1 million barrels before the war. The Indian government is also saying no permission is needed from anyone for the transit of vessels from the Strait of Hormuz, and this is after earlier today we saw that 2 India-flagged LPG tankers crossed the strait, according to CINA. Barclays also upgraded the U.S. Energy Secretary to sector to neutral from negative. And yeah, tensions are still high. We're getting news of more strikes over the weekend, to be honest here. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. What's up, Matthew? Mama Pawn, Punch, Vin, Altenberg, Big Slum, Matt, Arcane, Kato, Brian, OG, Arif, C-Man, Jonathan, Good News, P, J, Womble, John, J, Yee, Drake, On, Keegan, Steve, Sergio, Glass Half Full, Hack. Good morning, guys. Good morning. But yeah, Iran denying talks. Let's walk through the market here and just talk about everything that's going on. So, flash PMI is due at 9:45 a.m. The biggest data release this week by far. Thursday's jobless claims might be relevant, but 9:45 data release today for flash PMI data. It's the first release of March data. So we're going to see what that looks like. Futures are slightly red right now. The NASDAQ is, at least. You can see the previous closing price on the NASDAQ here. We are at 24,500s right now on the NQ. Here's the previous close right here. You can see the big blue line. That's the red to green level. We are slightly underneath that, but we kind of been chopping over and under it all morning. I wouldn't say we're really red. I think we have this easy range to look at, this really sideways range that most people are paying attention to right now. And we'll see if it breaks. We might take some if we get some good setups here, but right now it's just choppy in the NASDAQ. We can take a look at the S&P 500, and really we're getting a very similar thing here. Sideways, neutral activity ahead of the PMI data. So we'll see what that looks like today as well. The Dow, we can take a look at this. And I think the big story, Dow's looking basically the same. The big story, I think, is oil. Oil has crept back up a little bit higher here. So oil has crept back up a little bit higher. It is now over $90 a barrel after staying under 80s for a little while yesterday after the big news. Yesterday, you can see oil tank yesterday morning. right around 7 a.m. market time. On Saturday, the president gave a 48-hour ultimatum for Iran to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and then when that deadline was approaching yesterday, we got news that the president said that they had been having constructive talks with Iran, and that tensions were easing, and that we might potentially get a deal done within 5 days. Now, that immediately tanked the price of oil down to 84.30s a barrel. It immediately shot up. Any index, most stocks ripped up on this news. And then Iran basically disputed that, came back and said, hey, we have not been speaking with you. We haven't had any dialogue directly or indirectly. And then the president did give a little bit more info after this. So the president did give a little bit more info. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The president said that talks occurred Sunday night involving special envoys between Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, facilitated by Egypt, Pakistan, and Turkey. And he said there are, quote, 15 points of agreement and a deal could come within days. Iran's version is that there's been no dialogue between Washington and them. Parliament Speaker called it fake news intended to manipulate financial and oil markets. But like I said yesterday, the truth is probably somewhere in between these two things here. Realistically, both sides are probably not being completely honest about things. NPR did confirm back-channel efforts are underway with regional players working behind the scenes to de-escalate. Iran's president and foreign minister held phone calls with officials in Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt. So there is communication happening. It's just not direct communication, most likely. Now, historically, this is kind of what happens in the JCPOA nuclear deal. It's full of moments where both sides denied engagements with each other, and the reality was they were working together in the background. And so the big story today is oil, I think. Oil sitting, again, over $90 a barrel for WTI crude. If we take a look at Brent crude here, Brent crude still down. Yeah, I'm showing Brent crude is at about $101 a barrel right now if we're looking at Yahoo Finance. About $101 a barrel for Brent. WTI crude over 90, so still a premium for Brent global oil here. Here, I got to change my Nightbot settings. It looks like it's over posting here. Let me change this. Sorry, guys. Let me fix this. Let's see. We don't want it every 5 minutes. It's too often. Maybe every 10 or 15 minutes, maybe. 12 minutes is better. 12 minutes is better. And 12 minutes. All right. Yeah, we got a bunch of sites we're using for live news. But we'll see what happens here, guys. Again, oil is elevated slightly. It's still down net from where it was yesterday. This is where the big news came out. And gold is another one to watch this morning. Gold sitting right at 4,400s. We'll see if it holds. Gold dipped all the way down on that news about Turkey swapping physical gold for currency. They're down to about 44.11s right now, but they did dip gold, that is dipped to 43.70s. And again, the reason why is because this might influence the standard of other banks. If other banks start selling gold, and other countries start selling gold, markets might get nervous, specifically in the gold area. We also had some other news this morning regarding Nvidia here. So Nvidia, who said this earlier regarding Nvidia? Barclays, again, updated the U.S. Energy Secretary to neutral from negative. Where did I see this news? No, Pawn sent it to me. So yeah, Pawn. Yeah, so lawmakers have demanded the U.S. Commerce Department suspend Nvidia licenses to export AI chips to China and Southeast Asia countries after the discovery of a large smuggling scheme, per the Financial Times. Right, and this is after earlier last week, Supermicro Semiconductors had some bad news regarding this exact thing. You know, they caught one of the founders of Supermicro Semiconductors smuggling Nvidia chips to China. Supermicro Semiconductors on this news absolutely cratered, as it probably should have. You know, that's bad news. But we don't really see Nvidia moving much from this, because I think Nvidia is not really moving much from this at all. I'm trying to see what time this came out. This came out about 15 minutes before I started the stream, and Nvidia is not really moving any, at all from this yet. No big movements here for Nvidia, so we'll see if this continues to affect the rest of the day for them. But we'll see if we get more updates. This is apparently from the Financial Times. So FedEx is launching same-day delivery with OneRail as well. But let me do a poll here today, guys. Taco Tuesday. The ADP monthly report doesn't come out today. The ADP weekly report comes out today, but it hasn't really been moving markets, so we'll cover it. The big story today, the big economic report we get today, is going to be the flash PMI data. That's the one people are hanging on today, is flash PMI at 9:45. So this is going to be 15 minutes after the opening bell. So 15 minutes after the opening bell at 9:45, the flash PMI data is going to move things. Like, that is going to move things. So yeah, I saw 5 minutes before the tweets yesterday, there was a huge trade going long on equities and short on oil. Yeah, insider information, 100%. John, you should start reading Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. I've never read it, but I've heard what they say about it. You know, like, there's basically a time traveler named Barron that mirrors a lot of what happened very similarly. Really interesting. People speculate with that he's some type of time traveler. I've seen a couple different articles on it. It's interesting. I'm not saying I believe it, but it's funny. Yeah, you can see oil up about 278 on the day. S&P down about 0.15%. Dow down about 1.9%, 1.7. Nasdaq down about 0.12%. So most things are down about 0.1 to 0.15% today. Not big moves. Markets are kind of slow and choppy. Yeah, I heard about that, Andrew, as well. Aquafina contract. Yeah, the PMI report is the Purchasing Managers Index. Generally speaking, it identifies expansion and contraction in those sectors. And so with PMI data, if the data comes out over 50, it generally means that is an expanding sector. So if it's the services sector and it comes out at 55, that means it's expanding greater. If it's below 50 and it comes in at the 40s, it means contraction in that sector. So if it's manufacturing PMI and it's 45, that means manufacturing saw a contraction. And so it's going to be an interesting report today, because this is the first data we get for March, right? We haven't really got any economic data for March yet. And so because of that, this will be a little bit more interesting than it normally is for manufacturing PMI data. Yeah, there's definitely some insiders. They're taking those trades. You know, they could be insiders anywhere, though. They could be insiders in the administration, obviously. They could be insiders in the family itself. They could be insiders anywhere. Okay, so APN News alert in Dubai and United Arab Emirates. There's an Iranian spokesperson for its top military command says armed forces will fight, quote, until complete victory, end quote. Uh, we also got news about 3 minutes ago that the largest listed oil and gas drilling company in Saudi Arabia announced that it has suspended, quote, a handful, end quote, of its offshore drilling rigs because of the ongoing conflict in the Gulf. Apparently, Iranian media says echoes of explosions in Tehran as well. So we're getting more potential stuff going on overseas. We also had news that the Iranian embassy in South Africa mocked the president on a Strait of Hormuz control. They posted memes, apparently, suggesting joint U.S.-Iran control of the vital waterway. And we can look at this here. I was looking at this. This is by a website called Portwatch. You can see, and this is a little bit older data. This is data that cut off a week or two ago. But you can kind of see in terms of the arrivals of ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Like, look at this. Like, you can see the traffic starting in March. Here's March right here. So you can see Strait of Hormuz. And then now, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, people are like, yeah, it's open. But is it though? It's definitely not open for US stuff. We had news that some tankers from India got through. But yeah. Also, if we take a look at crypto and Bitcoin here, guys. Bitcoin sitting at 71,000. Still over 70s, which is a good sign. Look, here's Bitcoin right here. Still right around 70,000, 71K. So Bitcoin's trying to hold as well. Yeah, so traders apparently placed 580 million bets in oil in just 15 minutes before the president's tweet about a potential Iran peace deal, according to the Financial Times. The positions around 6,200 futures contracts were executed moments before the announcement, aligned with the sharp move lower in oil and the upward movement in indexes. And yeah, the move they're talking about, here is the big move from yesterday. Right around 7 a.m. in the morning, 7:05 or so, we had this huge move in the NASDAQ. S&P Dow was basically mirroring this. Oil dumped down. You know, you can see oil's big fall here. Traders are estimated to have generated 100 million or more in profit within 20 minutes. So, interesting. Yeah, y'all hit that like button. Hit the like button. Yeah, I'm going to have to put the timers a little bit later, too. They're going on a little bit too much. Yeah. There we go. That's better. Is there one more that I'm missing? 1, 2. Yeah, there is. Okay, that's the problem here. There we go. Yeah, I mean, somebody got news of that tweet coming before it happened here is really what it is. Like, somebody knew. An AP reporter on X says an Iranian spokesperson for its top military command say armed forces will fight until complete victory. Okay, I already covered that. Okay, this... Let's do a poll today, guys. All right, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get... Do you think the deadline? But yeah, so the president gave a 5-day, I don't know if I'd call it a deadline, but he said he was pausing strikes for 5 days as the U.S. and Iran basically are coming out speaking together. With that, right, that is set to end right around the end of this week. And so people are using the end of this week as the deadline. But we'll see. You know, the president is not above extending the deadline after giving a deadline and then extending it. This is something that we've seen a lot. People are asking what tweet we're talking about here. We were talking about this tweet yesterday. And election. Yeah, we're talking about this tweet right here. President tweeted this yesterday. I am pleased to report that the U.S. and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East, based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week. I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against the Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Now, this is the deadline people are talking about. I don't know if it's a deadline. It's just a pause. We'll see if we kick back up. Can you guys not hear my music? Maybe it's too low. I can turn it up. Is that better? Let me turn it a little bit higher here. Is that better? Let me know. Yeah, oil here. Here's oil. Well, oil, this is the oil chart. We were looking at that move. Here's oil. Oil is chopping sideways just with everything else today. Very slow, kind of boring market. Yeah, and this is after Bloomberg reported this. Visible tanker traffic in the Strait of Hormuz at near zero based on a 24-hour rolling 30-minute update. So they posted this right here. And you can kind of see, again, this is visible tanker traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. You can see for March, it's basically at zero here. So, and that controls 20% of the world's oil. So it's a very relevant, very, yeah. Is PMI data huge or nay? It's relevant today. Generally, it's not that big. PMI data generally is not that big. Flash PMI data, that is. But today is different. And the reason today is different for manufacturing and services flash PMI that we get at 945 is because this is the first time we're looking at sectors affected by the conflict in the Middle East. So this is the first time we're looking at sectors that are impacted, you know. Again, a lot of people are going to be watching oil today. If Brent stays below 105, the market believes talks are real regardless of what anybody says. If it creeps back towards 110 or more, the denial of talks is going to be winning the battle there, and Monday's rally could be a fake out. If we take a look at yields today, guys, let's take a look at two-year and then 10-year treasuries. 2-year at 3.874% this morning, up slightly on the day, I think. Or no, is it? Let me see. Down slightly on the day. But you can see how elevated yields are over the last week since all this stuff went on. More strikes. Yields settled down slightly yesterday. This is where yields were. Yields and interest rates follow each other. So yields for a little while yesterday morning were over 4%. You know, they were over 4%. Fears were high. This is after, again, on Saturday, the president gave a 48-hour ultimatum that was set to end yesterday at 8 o'clock at night. This was prior to the president's tweet about, you know, potential ceasefire and, you know, improved relations with Iran or whatever. When that tweet came out, yields dumped down. Why did this happen? Why did yields fall down so fast on the president's tweet? Well, with potential optimism regarding the conflict in Iran ending, it makes it less likely that we're going to have as bad of inflation fears as everybody expected previous to that tweet. And with lower inflation potential, you know, we have more of the green light to cut interest rates. We have more dovish sentiment overall, lower interest rate sentiment, and yields and interest rates follow each other. So if interest rate sentiment is low, meaning dovish, meaning more potential cuts, less hike potential, all that stuff, yields will go down because it's lower interest rate sentiment. If we have hike potential and fears and hawkishness and inflation worries, yields will climb. And so you can see prior to this, yields have climbed up. They climbed pretty high. And they're still pretty elevated, all things considered here. My wife was recently looking at CDs. She was in like a 6-month CD or something like that. And we were at the bank, you know, and that we had the CD at. And she was like, hey, she was looking at the current CD yields. And then she was also asking the bank what her CDs are paying now, like what the yield of the CDs she's in now. And they were paying like 2%. And she was like, hey, I'm getting ripped off. And I was like, yeah, kind of. But, you know, we had a lot change in the last 3 weeks. So it's not the bank's fault oil spiked. It's not the bank's fault interest rate sentiment went higher. And so, but yeah, point is, over the last month here, here's a monthly chart. Yields and, in that regard, interest rate sentiment are higher. This is one of the reasons gold has been falling down so much, is because if bonds are paying out more, you know, people have less incentive to buy gold. You know, their yields are paying higher. Risk off sentiment is there essentially. Audio, I can't hear you. You should be able to hear me, honestly. Yeah, we can look at Trueflation here. And a lot of people argue Trueflation is a more accurate reflection of actual inflation. Trueflation currently has CPI running at 1.74%. Now, again, this could easily change from the war in Iran and all this problems going on now. So, I think I'm a member of Trueflation. Let me log in here if it lets me. Yeah, but look at oil pop up. So oil just popped up a little bit. Oil now at 91s. I'm assuming the NASDAQ Dow fell down a little bit here. But again, very choppy price action today. I also just recently see that European Union has not set a deadline to announce when it will completely stop using Russian oil, according to a European Commission spokesperson. Yeah, a lot of strikes are still happening overseas. All right, so yeah, let me log into Trueflation here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so it's showing 1.74%. U.S. government has CPI at 2.4%. Treasury yield is real inflation data. USDC stablecoin. Yeah, I mean, look, we could look at the music volume. So if yields are, let's say, 5%, equities will fall. Not necessarily. It depends on what markets want, you know. A lot of the time, yes, because that means hawkish sentiment, essentially. That means like 5% yields, depending on which yield you're talking about. 5% for 10-year yields, which have a little bit more correlation with like mortgage and real estate interest rates. 2-year treasury yields follow the Fed a little bit closer. So it depends on which yields you're talking about. Like shorter term yields generally pay less in yields versus longer term yields, because longer term, the logic there is easy. Like longer term yields are going to pay more because risk on assets are safer longer term. So like if you invest in the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, or whatever stocks, you're safer investing long term, and you're probably going to earn more. And so what the banks usually do with these yields, right? Like you got to think about the bank's business model here. Banks generally will pay you specific interest rates on CDs and bonds or whatever, and they're taking your money and they're investing it long term, making much more from it generally long term. And so if they make 10%, 15% average a year, and which in right now's market is not a crazy return for banks, you know, they'll take your little 4% and pay you that little 4% and keep the 6% or, you know, 9% that they're getting with your money, basically, with you and their other customers' money. And that's one of the bank's business models. And like, that's what they are doing, is they are investing the money long-term, making money long-term in a lot of different ways. And then they're paying you your little 4% and they're pocketing the difference. And so, but they're also taking a little bit more risk because, you know, they're usually investing in other things. And, you know, that's a lot of the time what banks do. Am I wrong for buying oil right now? I don't know if you're wrong. Nobody knows right now. You buying oil essentially means, look at the NASDAQ jump here. So the NASDAQ is jumping up. You buying oil essentially means you think escalations are going to get worse. You know, you think we're going to have more tensions with Iran. You think problems are going to get worse there. And maybe you're right. I don't know. What if the banks lose your money? Well, they're on the hook for it because, you know, they have to pay you your yield regardless of it, Chris. So that's their risk, you know. But, you know, if you sit on things long term, like, look, the S&P averages 10% a year. I try to do this every now and then so people can understand it, right? The S&P averages, I don't know what it is now, but the historical standards is around 10%. So if you're a bank, right, and say, you know, let's just give a crazy amount here. I'm just going to make it like $1,000 or I'm going to make it 100K just to make it an easy explanation here. And you make 10% a year long term with 100,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That 100K turns almost 7X's in 20 years. It turns into about $673,000 in 20 years. Right. And so this is what banks are doing. A lot of the time they're making more than this, especially with the crazy AI market we've seen lately. You know, and then they're paying you like, look, okay, let's do the same thing. So 100,000. Oh, wait, where'd my calculator go? 100,000. Let's say they're paying you 4%, you know, and let's say that, well, let's do this over, and we can even make it compounding, which is sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but we can even make it compounding. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're paying you your profit here. You know, you're turning 100K into 220. They're turning 100K into almost 700. And so and they're pocketing the difference. They're making 500K or whatever that is. So this kind of goes to show you investing long-term in risk-on assets generally returns better than yields, you know, but yields are guaranteed. So you're guaranteed to make your little 4% or whatever by the U.S. government if it's U.S. government treasury bonds. But it's nuanced, you know. And then come the taxes. Yeah, that's right. Gold has returned almost 12% for 20 straight years. Yeah, especially right now, man. Gold. And I think gold is an interesting thing to look at today, but gold had this big dip. Again, we talked about the reason why this big dip occurred earlier. It specifically happened because what I'm showing here, at least, is that this happened because Turkey reportedly discussed gold for FX currency swaps, like trading in their physical gold. And they have one of the largest stockpiles of gold. They discussed trading it in for physical currency, probably the euro or US dollar. And just the consideration of that made gold nervous right here. But yeah, gold is trading like a risk on asset. And that's why it dips. Like, that's why one of the reasons gold has been falling. There's a lot of reasons, but if yields are paying higher amounts, less people are interested in buying gold because gold does not pay a yield. Gold has gold just appreciates. And so if gold is really high up there and people are nervous about it and yields are paying out more because of inflation fears, then people are going to gravitate away from gold and more into bonds and other risk-off assets that are guaranteeing returns and yields in a uncertain environment. And this is kind of one of the reasons, as well as just uncertainty. You know, the market's been dropping, causing liquidations, and gold is liquid, right? So when people need money, what do? They sell gold. All of this has caused gold to drop. It hit 4100s yesterday prior to that big announcement here. But it did pop up from the announcement. So Trump's announcement yesterday about Iran talks did make gold jump up yesterday. Not a ton. If we put up like a 5-minute chart, here's the move that gold did yesterday right here. This is the move that gold did. The announcement came right here. And so gold did pop up pretty substantially from it. But gold is doing what everything else did. Basically everything, every asset except for oil really and oil related stuff. Every asset for the most part that we watch regularly did a variation of this. It pushed up some and then it's been flat ever since. You know, we can look at NASDAQ. Same thing, pushed up big from the announcement and then it's been basically flat ever since. S&P 500 pushed up big from the announcement and then it's been flat ever since. Oil is doing the opposite. It pushed down big from the announcement and it's been flat, although it's starting to creep up some here. We do have higher lows right here leading into where we're at now at about $91 a share for WTI crude. But yep, that's where we're at. Goldman Sachs is also warning the Iran conflict could reignite inflation via rising oil prices. You know, sometimes these banks are just saying things that are really obvious. Like, of course, it could cause inflation from rising oil. Brent is seen at 105 in March and 115 in April if supply is disrupted. Worst case scenario, nearing record highs. A 10% oil increase could add 0.2 percentage points to headline inflation. Remember, core inflation excludes energy prices. Also, it's influencing fertilizer, metal costs, lifting food prices 1.5%. They now expect 3.1% inflation by the end of this year and 30% recession risks with rate cuts still likely, but less certain if oil continues to go up, they say. And this is Goldman Sachs. Look at oil pop. Look at the NASDAQ dump here. Let me see if we have any breaking news right now to cause this. Yeah, look at these drop right now. Something's going on. Hold on. Something's going on. Give me a second. We'll catch it. Iran, Turkey, gas flow said to stop after South Pars strike. We had Qatar's foreign ministry spokesperson say over 90% of attacks were thwarted. No decision made yet to retaliate, according to Al Jazeera. But Iran and Turkey gas flow said to stop after South Pars strike. I think this is what's causing this news right here. Look at the NASDAQ dip here. The NASDAQ falling back down. I think that news right there that I just put up in chat is what is causing this drop. Yeah, look at the NASDAQ dip. Oil is popping up a little bit here on this. More uncertainty and less stability, causing scarcity worries for oil, so it's increasing in price. Yeah, so again, Iran, Turkey gas flow said to stop after South Pars strike. Oil popping up. More swings. Here's the NASDAQ. Rejecting at 350. We're starting to go down to 330s here. Yeah, silver's a little bit more volatile. But again, Iran and Turkey's gas supplies are reportedly to have halted following a strike at the South Pars pipeline. Put this up in a banner. John, you think it's better to have end of day or intraday trail on props? I mean, obviously end of day is better, you know. Like let's say you have $1,000 drawdown. All right, let's say you have a $1,000 drawdown here. And let's say it's an end of day drawdown. And so if your account balance end of previous day is, let's call it 25,000, right? That means you have down to 24,000. If you go into 24,000, you lose, basically right there. And this is if it's end of day. If it's intraday, let's say you're, let's say you make $300 that day. All right, let's say you make $300. And so if it's trailing, that means that it follows you up. which means that you're, instead of being that previous 24,000 level we talked about, it's now going to be 24,300. And as you earn profit throughout the day, it follows you up, which is a less ideal situation, obviously. So because of that, end of day drawdown is much better. It's just safer. You have more room to trade, if that makes sense. All right, guys, Nasdaq started to rebound back higher here. Yeah, Nasdaq is starting to pop a little bit higher. Yeah, the big story is flash manufacturing PMI, flash services PMI at 945 today. I'm checking breaking news. I don't really see anything substantial here yet, but so Iran and Turkey's gas supply reportedly have halted following a strike, but markets are not really buying it too heavy here. I mean, they're buying it. They're impacted by it, but they're starting to feel some of the moves back the other way. Oil spiked up to 91.40s, is now back under 91s again. Nasdaq, S&P, if we look at the S&P here, S&P sitting at 66.20, so I kind of want to short this now in the S&P, but my banner up. Here we go. This looks like a short here. The risk is that, you know, the risk is that some news come out, push us the other way here. Straight close, market bleeding, but it's taco day. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see here, guys. Remember, we do have the ADP jobs report in 15 minutes. So we do have ADP, the ADP employment report for the weekly employment report at 8:15 market time. So we'll see what that looks like. But the big data today, again, it's not the ADP report. It's going to be the flash PMI data at 9:45. So I didn't short it. I'm glad I didn't, because we have basically filled this entire gap back up to the upside on the S&P. Oil is back down. That means, yeah, oil's back down at under 91s. S&P's getting bought up here, right back higher, bouncing right at this previous level right here. So we're kind of in a range right now, but we're starting to get some strength. A Thai ship apparently crossed the Strait of Hormuz thanks to cooperation between Iran and the Sultan of Oman, according to Al Jazeera. So we did have a Thai ship cross the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, we did have a Thai ship cross the strait. Yeah, I'm checking other breaking news, but what's up, Sam? Let me do a poll. I realize I haven't done a poll yet. Are you guys bullish or bearish today? On equities is what I'll say. I'm going to give a neutral option. I don't usually, but I think today's a little bit more justifiable to give a neutral option. So we're going to do a neutral option. There's the poll. The poll is now live. Are you bullish or bearish today on equities? Bull, bear, neutral, or the options. We also have ECB's members saying ECB is very vigilant on possible second round effects. ECB likely to have more information on second round effects in April, but data will be limited. Yeah, you can vote on this poll here. All right, guys. We're now back to the top of the range here. If we get a dip out of the VWAP, maybe I'll take a trade here, but we're so choppy in markets right now. Markets are really not doing anything. We're making some movements up and down, but we're at the 200 exponential. I see yeah, I'm checking on other market news, but it's still pretty light. Have you guys traded today? Or are you guys red or green today? So I see Secretary of State Rubio will attend the G7 meeting in France on Friday. We'll discuss Middle East and other stuff according to State Departments. Music's chill. Bullish. We're bullish. Today, this is really morning shorting Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin is still sitting over 71,000 here. It's right at 71,000 now. So even Bitcoin's flat compared to everything. Very sideways trend. But up at all. Looking at our poll. So we did our poll. 41% are bearish. 34% are bullish. 24% are neutral here. Imagine the market performance with no tariffs or war. We'd be cooking. Yeah, for sure we would. But that's not what we got. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio is going to talk about stuff. Yeah, let's take a look at some stocks here. So we're back down to the VWAP. I said I might buy it here, but I think I'm also kind of messing around in the middle here if I try to buy it. Where's these notifications? I get so many notifications. Got to silence some of this. Oh, love from New York City. What's up, guys? Oh, let's do a... Where are you guys from today? Where are you guys from? I'm here from Texas, Houston. Let me know where you guys are from this morning. I'm here from Houston, Texas today with you guys. Cheers to you. I bet I'm a Louisianian. I got my Louisiana mug here. So go Tigers. Germany, the old Vegas, Missouri, Kentucky, Netherlands, Norway, West Michigan, London, Houston, Poland, Michigan, Bulgaria, Idaho, Pluto, China, Greece, Kentucky, Midland, Texas, Seattle. Welcome, my friends. Welcome. Morocco, Australia, same as yesterday. I can't remember. I can't remember what they said yesterday. But I appreciate you guys joining me here from wherever you guys are. All right, guys. Some alert. I don't know where my alert's going off. I really don't know where my alert's going off. Oh, I see where it's going off. Gotta mute this one too. Alright, we're good. We're good. Did we get a fake pawn that joined yesterday though, guys? Did we get a fake pawn? I think we did. Did we get a fake pawn that joined our Discord? Guys, listen. Pawn is never going to reach out to you asking for money. Like, look. Is this a fake pawn right here? That is a fake pawn. So, I'm going to go ahead and ban that guy right now. Unless pawn says it's him, which I don't think it is. Pawn the moderator. Pawn. I'm going to boot this guy out of there. Remember, we're never going to reach out to you asking for anything. Yeah, I just booted him out of here. But remember, he's never going to reach out asking for anything, so. Yeah, there's so many scammers. You just got to be careful. All right, guys, look at the swings, though, in the S&P. S&P going up big and down big. All right, so Asian Development Bank has launched emergency funds for nations hit by the fallout of the war. Financial Times reporting ADP president said that Asia-Pac countries would be the worst affected by oil and gas volatility. Bro, where is these notifications coming from? I continue to see notifications popping up here. Yeah, we got one of the ECB members speaking. All right, guys, remember, in 7 minutes, we have ADP employment report. 7 minutes. But again, JP Morgan is warning that outdated electricity grids are now a national security risk vulnerable to extreme weather, cyber attacks, and rising energy stocks. Surging demand from AI, electrification, and industry combined with geopolitical instability is straining already fragile systems, according to them, creating bottlenecks and supply risks. The banks see a, quote, massive investment opportunity in grid upgrades, with global spending expected to reach $5.8 trillion by 2035, including about $1 trillion in the United States. They're shifting from neglected infrastructure to strategic assets as resilience and energy independence becomes top priority, according to JP Morgan. Yeah, a lot of notification sounds. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Ask for likes? Okay. I'll do a take profit giveaway at the end of the day today. If you guys... If we get over... What's a good like count? Like, what, 700 likes? 700 likes. You've got 1 hour. No, I'm just joking. Kind of. John, when are you getting drafted? Oh, dude. I'm not saying I'd run from the draft, but I might, you know. Yeah, I got it. If it was World War II, maybe. You know, but yeah, again, Goldman Sachs warning that the Iran conflict could reignite U.S. inflation via rising prices. Brent is seen as 105 in March, 115 in April if supplies disrupted. All right, we have 4 minutes until the ADP data comes out. We got the ADP jobs report going live at 8:15 market time. It's not a huge report. It's probably not moving markets unless it comes in incredibly weak or low or whatever. But we're here to cover it regardless here today, chat. We're here to cover it regardless. At 8:30, I believe we have non-farm productivity data coming out as well. The S&P 500 is starting to dip down here. And, yeah, we'll see what we get. We'll see what we get. ADP last time I showed it showed up at, what, 9,000 jobs for ADP data here, 9K. Yeah, last time it showed up at 9,000. It shows up in about 3 minutes today, guys. 3 minutes. Predictions? Thoughts on ADP jobs? It's a weekly jobs report. The monthly one usually has a little bit more influence. This is the weekly one. They do it every Tuesday. But man, dude, I was thinking about shorting. Draft Dodgers don't get likes. Hey, that's fair. That's fair. I can claim UNC status. I like buttons. Hey, click it. Yeah. All right, guys, here we go. ADP jobs data. 3 minutes here. 3 minutes. We'll see what we get. The big data today, again, manufacturing services flash PMI at 945. We have non-farm productivity. Very small release, not really a big release. The biggest release, again, 945 today. 15 minutes after the bell. Markets are still trending sideways here, though. Bernstein says Bitcoin is likely bottom and is set to rise, keeping a 150,000 price target for 2026 despite a 50% drop from its peak. Strategy has remained resilient. 3.6% of total Bitcoin supply is now held by MicroStrategy, about $53.5 billion worth. They see a high beta play on Bitcoin backed by a strong balance sheet. Instead of cutting exposure, they added more Bitcoin at recent lows, raising $7.3 billion in 2026. Do you guys agree with this? Bitcoin sitting at 71,000, just under 7,100s. Or just under 71,100s, I should say. All right, guys, here we go. About a minute left here, Chad. A minute left before ADP data. A pizza party? I'm old enough to remember. Do y'all remember where they used to have, like, I remember being in elementary school. Here, I'll talk about it after the ADP release. They had me out there slanging chocolate bars. You know, they give me about a, 50-cent toy from China for it. Ridiculous. All right, guys. Hey, we have 30 minutes left, 30 seconds left. Let's see what the ADP data shows. Again, last time it showed up at 9,000 for the week. We're going to get a deeper look at what these sectors are that gained or lost jobs, that gain or lose jobs. About 15 seconds left. Hit the live button next to the play button. Here we go. 10 seconds. All right, and here's the release right now. Looking at ADP data. Yeah, the ADP data. All right, so NASDAQ hasn't really moved. But the ADP data is out, I believe. Yeah, okay, so it's out. It showed up at 10,000, so only about 1,000 over what was expected last time, or what showed up at last time. So it showed up at 10K. We'll put it up in chat right here. 10,000. Yeah, not really moving markets at all. Again, it's basically what it was last time, and this isn't really a huge report, or I would cover it. The big one today, again, flash manufacturing and services PMI dropping at 945 today. That's the big report today for sure. It gives us a first look at jobs, or the first look at where sectors are after the conflict. This is March data, right? So flash PMI is March data. It's going to give us the first look at where stuff is after this conflict started. So let's see what we get. We also have non-farm productivity and a couple other things going live. Or yeah, it's giving us a couple things going live. Bro, how in the world? Did somebody steal my account here? I don't remember buying this account at all. When was this originally purchased? Now I gotta check this. I did get a receipt this morning, I think. Hold on. Okay, never mind. I see it. Apparently, I got this on February 24th. Alright, I see it. Show me your war face? Dude, every day you guys get my war face here. You know, whatever that means. Yeah, but again, US ADP weekly employment change 10,000. Alright. Again, we can look deeper into this, but this isn't really a big market moving report here. What they're saying on this ADP report is that healthcare is reshaping the labor market. We can delve deeper into it. It said, unlike past labor market upheavals, this one isn't being driven by tech. Older people in particular, having a profound effect on labor supply and demand in the U.S. On the supply side, 10,000 people turn 65 every day. This huge baby boomer generation born between 46 and 64 is helping make the U.S. population as a whole older. As they age out of the labor market, the supply of prime age workers between the age of 25 and 54 is shrinking. On the demand side, the country's growing population of retirees is the wealthiest generation in U.S. history, and one of the biggest expenditures is healthcare. But yeah, you can see for the 4-week ending March 7th, private employers added an average of 10,000 jobs a week. Employment gains for the week in March were little change. These numbers are prelim and could change. So yeah, this week is a little bit more quiet with you can see the changes in employment between 2000 and now. 2000 doctors' offices were at 43%. Now they're 33%. Between January 2000 and January 2025, education and health had the largest increase of employment of all sectors. They're super sectors. These changes suggest a shift in healthcare hiring towards private at-home care and away from institutional and public health. Change that's riding demand of demographic tailwinds in the country's rapidly aging population. So, yep. Education and health services as a share of private sector job gains. See this trend here. Look at that rise. Well, yeah, it makes more sense away from hospitals, more at home after 2020. I think, especially, which is where you see a lot of these spikes. That's Bruce's secret account. Honestly, talking about Bruce here, bro. Here, let me tell you guys a story. Yesterday, we got home. My wife and I got home. We let the dogs outside. You know, we kind of go... I don't remember what we went and did, but when we come back, Bruce... There's a feather hanging out of Bruce's mouth. A feather. You know, and we're like, what is Bruce eating over there? And I walk outside. It's a freaking bloodbath, dude. Bruce ate an entire bird. The entire bird, he ate this bird. You know? Like, the entire bird. And like, you know how some dogs or cats will just kind of mess with it? They'll like pat it around and stuff. Not Bruce. Bruce ate the entire bird. There were feathers and it was a bloodbath outside, dude. My daughter cried. She cried, you know. But freaking Bruce, dude, just eating an entire bird. An entire bird. Ridiculous. Yeah, taco stands for Trump always chickens out. Basically, he'll say something and then reverse it. We did get news that New York Stock Exchange and Securitize are agreeing to an MOU to support tokenized securities. Markets are flat today, though, man. Again, the PMI data could be waiting on it. Bruce is a German Shepherd. Yeah, this is Bruce right here. Bruce is a beast, dude. He really is. This is Bruce at 7 months. That's Bruce. He's a good boy, though. He's a sweet dog, honestly. Do I want to pet him after he ate the bird? No. But he's a sweet dog, man. He really is. He's sweet to us. He might not be sweet to you, though. Yeah, I have a picture of the feather hanging out, or it really was a wing hanging out of his mouth. All right, guys, S&P Nasdaq down, very flat and choppy here, very flat and choppy. I'm pretty sure what happened. Carol and I's theory is that the bird ran into one of our windows, and I don't think the bird would have made it anyway, because it ran into one of our windows. So. Yeah, so gold, again, gold, very flat on the day. It had this big swing because I think Turkey came out saying that they were considering gold for FX swaps, meaning they were going to trade in some of their big stash. They have a big stash of physical gold, tons, and they were going to trade. They said they were considering trading some of that in for probably euros or US dollars. Now, this is bad because it means people might start selling physical gold. The standard could change. It could spread. That type of dynamic or trend could spread to others. But gold ended up rebounding back and forth. And again, it's basically flat with everything else today. I don't know if it's manipulation. I think it's just markets responding to fear from stuff like this. So I don't think it's manipulations. I think it's just markets responding and fearful, if that makes sense. I think that's what this is. Yesterday was pure manipulation. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talked about this earlier, that we saw some big positions. So we saw this earlier, like, let's talk about it. So here is oil, right? Here's the big oil move from the president's tweet yesterday. Unusual Whales posted that traders placed roughly $580 million in oil bets 15 minutes before the president's tweet about a potential Iran peace deal, according to the Financial Times. Around 6,200 futures contracts were executed moments before the announcement and aligned with the sharp move lower in oil that followed. Trades are estimated to have made over $100 million in profit within 20 minutes. So somebody knew something ahead of this big oil move. Somebody knew something. I'm not even mad at them if they did, to be honest. Because if there's not that much regulation with stuff like this, I mean, look, I'm not saying I would take a big oil short. If my papa all of a sudden was like, hey, I'm about to make this tweet, I might jump on an oil short too. Don't hold me to this. I would never do that, guys. I would never do that to you guys, But yeah. Somebody made a bunch of money. NASDAQ got to the top of the range. Let's see about oil here. And y'all can pretend like y'all wouldn't. You guys know. Y'all know. Yeah, I can respect Rob's comment here, which is true. Here, let's put it up on the screen. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, notifications are all. Yeah. Also, guys, check out Lucid. If you haven't already, you want to help support my channel here, I appreciate the love. Check out Lucid. Lucid gives you a demo. They test your skill with it. You pass the test, they fund you. You fail, you only lose what you pay for. Lucid has some of the most relaxed rules in the game. They have direct to funding options as well here. And again, Lucid is one of the biggest ones that's out right now. Look. Great way to help support my channel. You can use coupon code BT at checkout. But look, trade with clarity. They've paid $60 million out to traders. 50,000 traders. 15-minute average payout times. Really reasonable. They have end-of-day drawdowns. 10-to-1 micro scaling. No hard breach rules. 90-10 profit split. And so that means if you make $1,000, you keep 900 of that. They give you a demo. They test your skill in futures. You pass the test. They fund you. You fail. You only lose what you pay for. They also have direct to funding options as well here. So if you use my coupon code BT, you can use Lucid Direct. $238 if you use my coupon code BT at checkout. And again, most day traders are going to lose. You fund your own account, real money, $5,000. You might have a tough time. So I'll put this link up here. Great way to help support the channel. And it looks like we're about to get... Yeah, here's the link right here if you want to check them out. But it looks like we might be about to get... Yeah, there's the link right there. Again, they're an affiliate of mine. I am biased. It looks like we're about to get non-farm productivity. I don't think non-farm productivity is going to move markets at all. Yeah, I just don't think we're going to get much movement from this, but we'll see. ADP employment showed up at 10K. Non-farm productivity expected at 2.8%. It drops in how long? In 30 seconds. Yeah, you can also check out Apex, same code BT on Apex as well. All right, let's see what we get. 2.8% expected for non-farm productivity. The big release, again, manufacturing services PMI data. And here it is right now in about 10 seconds. Let's watch the NASDAQ, see if it moves at all from this, which I don't think it will. And here's the release right now. All right, non-farm productivity showed up at 1.8%, a little bit weaker than expected for non-farm productivity. Unit labor costs did show up at 4.4%, 4.4%, and the market is not liking this. Look at the drop. Weaker productivity, higher unit labor costs is what is going on right now. Yeah, Apex still running at 85% off for the max discount you get there. Again, you'll get the max discount. You just use coupon code BT. You'll get it. But yeah, 4.4% unit labor costs. Lower than expected. All right, guys. The big rule today, or the big story today, is going to be manufacturing PMI data. We're at 24.3s here. The bad news keeps coming. Yeah, I mean, this moved markets a little bit. Again, this was... Hey, Maddie. How you doing today? Doing good? I love you. You doing all right? Yeah. Okay. That's good. I love you. Have a great day. So yeah, look at the market drop on this data here. It's either dropping on this or something else, but I think it's dropping on this. We had a non-farm productivity, again, quarter over quarter showed up at 1.8% versus 2.8% expected. Previous was 5.2%. Unit labor costs quarter over quarter showed up at 4.4% versus 2.8%. And so Yeah, so unit labor cost is the annualized change in the price businesses. Hey, dude. How you doing, bro? You alright? My son never gives me a straight answer. I'm like, hey, dude, how you doing? I'm good, I guess. I love you, buddy. Have a good day, dude. Like, I never get a normal response. Love you, buddy. Alright, have a good day, dude. Yeah, he's laughing about it now because he knows it's true. He knows it's true. Hey, congrats on passing the second. That's great, honestly. But yeah, look at the market react to this here. Yeah, no straight answers. I'm like, hey, son, how you doing? You doing okay today? I guess. Like, hey, son, you want to play Halo? I guess I do. You know, what does that mean? Just give me a freaking straight answer, dude. All right, look at the NASDAQ fall here. We're at 24.3. 24.3. Yeah, I'm looking at breaking news to make sure nothing else is moving markets, but look at this. Who knew non-farm productivity and unit labor costs being higher than expected would move markets here? I gotta check something else though, because markets are moving right now. Canadian factory sales rose 3.8%. And so again, Iran halting gas to Turkey after the strike. We got news earlier that the South Pars field stopped gas after the strike on the South Pars field. Iran has stopped gas exports to Turkey. He could be the Fed chairman one day. He could. I'm predicting he will, actually. Yeah, so let's talk about what's tanking markets right now. Look at this. Whoa. This is a very large drop here. Very large drop. Surprisingly. Again, manufacturing and services PMI later. Canadian manufacturing sales prelim 3.8%. Yeah, the BG at the end of it is just the URL. The code you use on Lucid is BT. PMI is at 9:45. It's 15 minutes after the opening bell. So yeah, this is a bad combo for manufacturing PMI, or I'm sorry, for non-farm productivity and unit labor costs. So with unit labor costs, they're surging way hotter than expected, nearly double the estimate. It means businesses are paying more per unit of output. It's a direct inflation input. And so labor costs rise, companies eat the margin, and they pass it on to consumers. And so unit labor costs being higher than expected is inflationary. Productivity was lower than expected. So productivity is the one thing that offsets rising labor costs. And so if we have lower than expected productivity and higher labor costs, that's bad. If workers produce more per hour, you can afford to pay them more without raising prices. But yeah, this is bad. It means stagflation in a data print. That's why markets are reacting so negatively to this right here, is because, yeah, it's kind of an inflation print. Yeah, so productivity increases lower than expected. Unit labor cost increases 4.4%, noticeably higher than expected here. So that is what is dropping the market so substantially. And we did break underneath this low on the NASDAQ here. Let's see what happens. I got to make sure the president's not tweeting as well here, though. Members of the Iranian National Security... Okay, so we did get this news that recently broke. Members of the Iranian National Security Commission say no proposal has been made by Iran to end the war and ceasefire. And Trump's claim to extend the 5-day deadline is due to the control of oil prices in the global markets. All right, so again, a member of the National Security Commission in Iran said, quote, no proposal has been made by Iran to end the war and ceasefire, and Trump's claim to extend the 5-day deadline is due to the control of oil prices in the global markets and probably to advance his, quote, sinister military goals, end quote, the ISNA, the Iranian National Security Commission. That is what's going on right now. That is what's impacting things right now. We will see what we get. But oil prices probably pushing up. Yep. John, if your son's going to be Fed chairman, you have to promise us you'll still do YouTube. I don't know. If Jack's chairman, I'm assuming he's going to be rich. I might just live off of him, dude. You know? Yeah, I mean, again, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle here. You know, in previous situations like this, historically, both sides have basically denied talks, and then there apparently were talks going on in the background. I think that is probably true here, but I think both sides are exaggerating or embellishing their end of it. And I think this is pretty obvious. So, yeah, oil up at over, it's almost up to $92 here, $92. Again, just to recap this news that just came out, the Iranian National Security Commission says no proposal has been made by Iran to end the conflict. Trump's claim to extend the 5-day deadline is due to control of oil prices and global markets. Looking at our poll here, we did bull or bear today on our poll. 44% said bearish, 36% said bullish, 20% said neutral. And we're talking equities here, and the NASDAQ is reacting in that way. The NASDAQ is falling down now as we speak here. It's at 24,274 here. So, interesting here. Interesting. Gold, what is gold? I'm sure gold's down. Yeah, gold is down. 43.78 here for gold. Silver, under the previous closing price. Silver is now technically red on the day. It's back down to $68 an ounce here. Was Kramer right? Yesterday, Kramer said bull. If I remember correctly, yesterday Kramer said bull, and now we're kind of going down. I can't remember when he said bull. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to see, like, basically what happened here. Like, if we look at the NASDAQ, Kramer around here said bull. You know, and so shout out to Kramer. He called the top. I mean, he was wrong, I think, but shout out to Kramer. Let me check Kramer actually. Kramer said this morning, it's always intriguing to me to see the futures turn down sharply based on no new information, as has happened this morning. Jim Cramer yesterday, after these tweets, that these two things, he said, bulls for the AM, bears are scrambling, are they cornered? Jim Cramer. And again, he said all of these things roughly right around here. I think I might be wrong. I'll have to look at the time snaps here. Let me look at the times actually. So he said bulls rule for the AM at 6:15. Jim Cramer said the bulls were ruling here. Yeah, I got you, feel me. I saw it, brother. I saw it. We'll get you. I'll meet you with you sometime this week if you got time, brother. Yeah, so a couple things that happened over the last 5 minutes. One of them was, again, non-farm productivity showed up weaker than expected at 1.8 versus 2.8 expected. Unit labor costs went up to 4.4%. Previous they were 2.8%, or previous they were negative 1.8. They went up to 4.4%. So higher unit costs, lower productivity. Markets don't like that, and NASDAQ is down. We also had more denials from Iran. Yeah, no, for sure. Man, look at the market starting to wake up a little bit. Five-day pause. Yeah, and that 5-day pause is supposed to end on Friday this week. We'll see if it holds, though. Okay, so we're getting a couple reports by the Wall Street Journal that says, quote, and again, I'm not saying this is true. I'm not agreeing with this. But according to what's called Redbox Global, and a couple other sources retweeted this, it says, quote, U.S. Marines are set to enter the Middle East on Friday, additional forces to follow in coming weeks as airborne units remain on rapid standby, end quote. Wall Street Journal, shared by Redbox Global, not the DVD rental service. And yeah, that news is just released here. I think they're assuming if the 5-day peace deadline ends, that's what's going to be happening. All right, guys, NASDAQ is really testing this 24,290 area. Nvidia up 1.7, Apple up 1.4. Nvidia's down on the day because of what time frame we're talking about. I see some people saying the White House is live. I'm not showing they are here. Here's the NASDAQ. Looking at our poll, 45% are bullish, 19% are neutral. Yeah, like we can watch the 10-year treasury yields. I'm sure with all this, the 10-year is going to be popping right now. I'm assuming here. No? Am I wrong? More fears in the Middle East is going to make the 10-year jump. The 2-year jump as well. Yeah, 10-year yield is jumping. Especially with the unit labor cost increase that we got from the data at 8:30. Yields are jumping up. Just got in why we dropped. There were a couple different reports that came out, MK, over the last few minutes. One of them is that we had lower non-farm productivity, so lower productivity, higher unit input costs, so higher prices potentially, and weaker performance and productivity. That's number one. That dropped at 8:30, which does correlate with the movement that we're seeing on the downside in equities. But we also had the National Security Commission in Iran say no proposal has been made to end the war, and the president's claim to extend the 5-day deadline is due to him trying to control oil prices in global markets. Both of those things are not necessarily good. Because of that, oil up, NASDAQ, S&P, Dow down. Broke under big support and resistance areas, and now we are trending down here, and S&P is at 6,600s right now, 6,600s. So we also had news earlier that Iran has stopped natural gas exports to Turkey following the South Pars strikes last week. But remember, the big data that we get coming out is going to be flash PMI data at 9:45. That is for March. So we're going to see how March is affecting certain sectors, services, and manufacturing today at 9:45. This isn't the March Madness I wanted. Yeah, so we are going to be doing a day trading, like a dedicated day trading stream today as well. So, yeah, be ready. We're going to do dedicated day trading. And again, 9:45 is when the flash PMI data comes out. We did get news that U.S. envoy to India says India Prime Minister and U.S. President spoke about the importance of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. 6600s right now, 6600s. Yeah, we're at 6600s right now on the S&P. Nasdaq is at 24,270s. Do you guys remember renting DVDs? I remember renting DVDs. Blockbuster was fun, man. I miss Blockbuster. Iran says it fired new missiles. Right, so we're still flushing down some here at 24,273s. Yeah, I remember renting DVDs. Some of you guys might be too young for it. I remember Blockbuster. I remember Redbox. Redbox used to be outside supermarkets. You can go, you know, that's like $1. You get a DVD for $1. You got to return it. Good old days. Right, Nasdaq broke down and now it's kind of sideways and choppy here. So we're just waiting for something to change, but so we're starting to creep back up. But we're kind of sideways now at this point. We're not really doing much. Hit the like button. Yeah, since the big moves we got yesterday, the market's been kind of flat. It's been kind of boring here. Hasn't really done a ton. It's just kind of sitting sideways now. So, it's kind of sitting sideways. Not doing too much. Bitcoin holding over 70. Yeah, Bitcoin was over 70 once. It is now down under 70s here. This is like a volume profile right here. If you look at it, this is the point of control. You got the value area high, value area low that we're looking at. But point of control at 71,000 makes sense because a lot of people are attracted to 71,000 short term. A wall sitting sideways. Yeah, I guess. Bitcoin makes no sense. I mean, it kind of can. can't say sitting sideways if you're from Texas. I'm not from Texas. All right. I live in Houston. You know, I remember when Mike Jones and Paul Wall were big, though. You know, what was it, like 2005? You know, I'm expecting a bunch of who in the chat, but all right, NASDAQ starting to push up. Some of you guys understand, some of you guys don't. That's all right. All right, guys, NASDAQ back up higher here. We get back up to like this level, I might know what I'd want to do. I might consider a couple different things. So we get back up to here, I might short. But 281330. What's your opinion on the bond market? I think yields are climbing right now. So I think yields are climbing up. So I think yields are climbing. Interest rate sentiment is a little bit higher after some of those news releases that dropped. Iran reportedly charging some ships for safe passage to the Strait of Hormuz, apparently. We're getting news that Iran is basically charging some ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Red Book showed up at 6.7% just now, 6.7%. All right, guys, we're at 24,280s right now. We don't really have any recent breaking news that I'm showing here on my end. I see Iran's charging some ships for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, according to reports. All right, guys, so yeah, I'm checking a couple things here, but we are going to be doing a dedicated day trading stream here. Hey, you know. What is in Iran? The Strait of Hormuz is by it. The Strait of Hormuz, again, supplies 20% of global oil. And so 20% of global oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So that is kind of what it is. That's kind of the big story here. Yeah, here, guys. So I'm waiting here, but we're going to do a dedicated day trading stream today, and we're also going to be covering the flash PMI data at 9:45 on a separate stream. And then we're going to stick around and day trade a little bit longer there. We might day trade the release. So again, this is going to start at 8 o'clock. We'll redirect everybody to this stream, though, when we start. But it's going to be more of like a day trading stream with more technical levels and stuff. Less about news. More about day trading specifically. So here we go. We're going to start that stream up now. And yeah, again, if you haven't already joined the new stream, make sure redirect is working to this one. Yeah, so if you want to watch this day trade, we'll also cover the flash manufacturing PMI news on that stream as well. 9:45 is kind of a big release for this. It's not small here, so just be ready for it. And yeah, I'll see you guys over there. We're gonna do a dedicated day trading stream just to maximize kind of keywords and stuff. So again, I'll see you guys over there. Again, as soon as I close this stream, it should bring you to the new one. If it doesn't, for whatever reason, here's the link to the new stream. So if it doesn't, for whatever reason, bring you to this new stream, here's the link to it. I got you guys here. No, same channel. It's just a dedicated day trading stream. Yeah, there's the link, Kenny. Link is right above you, brother. All right, I'll see you guys over there.